Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Another video here. Sorry it's been a little kind of infrequent, I guess, or irregular with the upload schedule. I've just been busy as well as sick in this past week, which not a great combo there, but trying to get more consistent, weekly uploads and everything. Today, as you can tell, we have a pretty unique video here. Nothing we've ever actually really done on the series before. It is the guns of video games. And it's kind of exactly what it sounds like, I guess. It's kind of analyzing some of the weapons and guns that are frequent flyers in video games. Obviously, I'm a huge video game fan, that's no secret, but I'm also a big gun guy, personally speaking. It's something I enjoy, recreationally and collecting, and I find very interesting. So I'm lucky enough to have some that I can showcase and make relations to in video games here that I want to kind of do a video on and kind of showcase the gun or the weapon, as well as, showcasing kind of where they've made appearances throughout their lifespans in different video games and give some history on it. Obviously, it's the first one of a series, so I was kind of trying to figure out exactly how I wanted to do this. But yeah, I kind of just wanted to talk in general, and then I'll kind of minimize myself up to a corner here and kind of go from there and showcase some different renderings and different iterations of it in video games. But yeah, so that's kind of the plan for the series here. I do have other guns and other weapons that I want to kind of showcase here. Obviously, I know this isn't strictly about video games, it's obviously about weapons and guns too. But my thought process was that guns and weapons in general really have become such an ingrained and kind of like a, uh, you know, minor or not a minor but a major piece of video games and such a prevalent accessory, and they're kind of ingrained into video games that it kind of goes hand in hand with the things, and it still relates to video games in a way. And it's just, I know a lot of people get exposure to weapons and guns strictly through video games. That's how they get interested in it, like me. So I just figured I'd do that. And obviously today we have a very special treat here, the Kar98k. Trying to fit this all in frame. It is a long rifle, of course. Try to properly hold this. The Kar98k rifle. So yeah, let's get into it here. So starters, this is what a real one actually looks like. Obviously, there's a lot of different variations in ones, different accessories you can put on it, different damage levels it's sustained over its closing in on around 100 years of service here. It's so yeah, there's a lot of different variation from gun to gun, obviously, and model to model. But this is the one I have. It was made in 1942, I believe, if I get the stampings correct. Should have probably checked that before the video, but I believe it was made in 1942, regardless. But regardless, old gun, obviously. They're closing in again at around 100 years of service, and again, it depends on the gun and the model. Obviously, these Mauser rifles have gone back quite a ways, even further than 100 years. But yeah, this is obviously a German rifle. It is most famous, obviously, for its kind of service as the main battle rifle of Nazi Germany in World War II. That is kind of where it's by far gotten the most notoriety and why people know it from history and video games today, and why it's in so many video games and depicted in so many video games because of how popular of a topic World War II is, obviously. It is, quite the rifle. It was the main, German battle rifle of World War II, as well as a lot of other different conflicts throughout history. As old battle rifles like this go, not even just for the German rifles, they kind of get recycled in the future conflicts sometimes, either for Germany or even in the modern day. These, occasionally float around in conflict zones around the world of lesser developed and less poor or less wealthy countries. Essentially, they kind of float around there just because they're still perfectly fine rifles. This and a lot of them they still fire. They're very accurate. They're great rifles. They're dependable. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this. So, that's how old rifles kind of get recycled either into civilian hands or in the, future wars for countries who are either desperate or, lacking the fundings for modern arms. So it still sees service, but obviously it was main kind of heyday was obviously Nazi Germany in World War II, is where this thing kind of made its, fame here. So yeah, just a little more about the gun itself here, apart from the kind of history of which nations use it. It obviously is a, bolt act, or you can't really see the bolt as well from this angle here. Maybe flip this around. But it is a bolt action battle rifle here. A lot of times, particularly bringing it back to video games, bolt action rifles means marksman rifles or sniper rifles and stuff like that. Long distance or like, very accurate and lethal rifles in video games. Obviously, this is very, very lethal. You wouldn't want to get shot with this at all, but it is still more than capable of being just a main kind of infantryman battle rifle. Especially these, as you might have seen in some of the video game series, especially Call of Duty, you can have versions of these or mount a telescopic sight on these to make it more of a sniper rifle and to extend the range of which you can use in the accuracy at that range, of course. This obviously does not have that. But yeah, it can be a sniper rifle, but it also can be just a mainline infantry troop kind of main battle rifle here. Just because it's bolt action does not mean it's, a kind of marksman specialized rifle. Given the year it was made, obviously, bolt action rifles are incredibly common or semi-automatic. They did have fully automatic machine guns and larger submachine guns as well, of course. But for the main inline soldier, that was kind of what you were rocking with 9 times out of 10, or I don't know the actual ratio, but a lot of the times. But yeah, so that's a little history on that. It is a bolt action rifle here. It can have a telescopic sight on it for some versions if you want it to be a sniper rifle. This does not. This obviously just has the iron sights, which I'll showcase in a minute here. It's bolt action. Obviously, flip this up here, or at the safety's on. Gotta here. Flip that up here. Pull back. That is, essentially how you load and cycle the rounds in the gun here. For the magazine itself, if you can kind of get in there, it is an internal magazine here. This does not detach on the bottom here at all. Well, I guess you can unscrew it and take it apart, of course, for cleaning and such, but it is an internal magazine there. I believe it holds maybe 5 rounds, plus one maybe, but I can't remember the exact round countage. But yeah, this is a bolt rifle. Put it the cycle back in and load it. Obviously, you just push forward and down to your right. Um, Pretty good, kind of bolt here. I like the kind of, it fits well into the hand and it's a large thing to grab onto. But yeah, that's how that works. Um, you can cycle it pretty fast. The action on this is thankfully pretty smooth still. A lot of old rifles, especially if you get into Soviet and Russian, Mosins, which we will do eventually, a little grimy in there, and it's a little hard to do, but it functions perfectly. As far as the safety goes on this, yes, it does have a safety. It is this little back flip up piece here. I'll flip it up until it's like middle position here. It is this little piece right here is the safety on this rifle. So when it's all the way to the left, when you flip it to the left like that, you're able to work the bolt. You're able to fire here. I'm not going to dry fire this just because I don't know what the recommendations are for this gun on that. But you're able to fire this. But if you flip it into the up position, or I guess not the up position, but if you flip it into the right position here, so it's facing to the right of this gun here, you can't operate the bolt here. You can't operate the bolt here, and you also can't fire. Obviously, you can see the trigger moving somewhat, but you can't fire. You'd hear a click from the firing pin. You can't fire the gun or operate the bolt when it's on the right side there, so that is the safety there. That is not, although it kind of looks like it might be, especially when it's flipped into its middle position here. This is not a sight. This doesn't really help with the iron sights, especially how you use them normally. But this is just a safety mechanism there, so let's flip that into safe. Very easy to take apart the bolt as well with the little mechanism on the other side here. This is the trigger guard right here, pretty standard. Allows more than enough room for your finger, especially if you have gloves on or something in the colder weather. Nice trigger pull, pretty nice there. Obviously, it's all wooden furniture for the most part here. The screen froze. The back piece of it here, it's kind of hard to say, but you can see it there. It is just a metal kind of like steel butt plate or whatever this is. Obviously, not exactly the most sporterized thing in the world. You will see modern reproductions of, or not reproductions, but modern upgrades of it with sporterized padding on it, which I think is horrendous to alter such a old weapon like this with something like that. But this is what it would come with, just a little metal butt plate. This is just so you can put it on the ground and protect the wood and everything. But obviously, comfort and shooting on your shoulder is not not the main idea here. And it does pack quite a punch and shoots a rather hefty round here. But yeah, so for the iron sights here, which is an important factor when we get into the comparisons of it in video games, some depicted differently than others, slightly differently, not majorly. The iron sights of it are this kind of like raised V notch here, as you can see. Um, Maybe we can point it at you, I guess, to kind of depict it the best. But it's kind of this raised V notch here, as you can see. It's kind of like that pyramid raised thing here. Whatever is, on this line here is what you're aiming for. This is the front sights here. So it's this raised V notch thing. And then in the back, how you actually line that up with the rear sights and everything. It's kind of hard to see. I can raise the sight maybe a little bit. It is kind of in, God, it is really hard to see, honestly. But is this kind of inlaid, kind of V-notch cutout almost? As you can see there, there's a little cutout right there. That's what you put that's what you line up with the front sights, put that in there, and whatever you're aiming at is theoretically dead. As you can see, I had the sights raised, the iron sights raised. You can raise and lower the iron sights here with this little slider that's attached to it. As you can see, it's raised up here. This is a distance thing. So obviously there's a lot of different distances you might be able to encounter the enemy at, and for that, their solution was essentially to have this little slider iron sight here that's you see somewhat common in some of these older guns. It's hard to see the numbers on there, but they are numbered 1 through 20. Um, and that's I believe for 100 kilometers essentially. Most often when you shoot, especially, it'll be with the 1 or the 2 mark here, which is at the bottom. But you can raise it by sliding this along here. Raises the sights, so it can go all the way out to 20, which I assume is like 2,000 meters, maybe. I'm not exactly sure on that, but I assume it's in hundreds of meters given the metric system and everything. But yeah, so that's the iron sights and how that works. That's what they look like there when they don't have a telescopic sight on it. But yeah, as far as the rest of the gun features, wooden furniture again, it has some of these little screw hole looking things periodically placed throughout here. You might have noticed when I showed off more of the barrel side of it, there is this little notch here. And yes, that is for something. You can put a bayonet on it. You can actually even put a grenade launcher on it from what I've seen. I unfortunately do not have the grenade launcher attachment for this fucking thing, but this is mainly for a bayonet here. It is not a plug bayonet, obviously. It's just attaches here, and it's a regular bayonet, which I am actually fortunate enough to have. And I mistakenly did not grab for this recording, but it is right over here, I believe. I'm gonna go grab that. We're back. We're lucky enough. We are lucky enough to actually have the bayonet for this gun here. Um, so let me just slide this on here to show you what the bayonet would have. And yes, even in World War II, bayonets were still rather common or completely common to be issued to soldiers for their battle rifles. There was close quarter combat still, and that's why you need one of those essentially. Oop. There we go. So this is the bayonet cover, just pretty standard cover for your knife here, even when you're using it. You know, slide it on and slide it off pretty easily. But yeah, this is what the bayonet looks like attached to a Kar98k. Pretty standard how you kind of imagine it would look for the resting essentially there. Yeah, pretty long bayonet. I don't really have anything for reference, but it's a long blade. That's the actual blade itself. Got a wooden handle, kind of seats into the over the barrel as well as, on that little ridge I showed you there. And it, yeah, that's the bayonet. It does add some weight to the front, of course, but it's not really hugely noticeable. Especially if you need a bayonet, you're definitely going to take it. How you release, you can see there's kind of an outraised button right there. You just compress that in, little piece comes out. You can slide that right off, and your bayonet is detached, and you essentially have a knife, I guess, if you want. But yeah, that's how the bayonet there works. This is the full bayonet. This thing still is sharp, so being mindful of where I place it exactly. Pointed blade, obviously. Sharp on one side here on the bottom. As you can see, the top side is much thicker and kind of dull. That's kind of the aperture that goes with the barrel there. You can use it as a knife perfectly fine. Works perfectly fine. Nice little wooden kind of handle there. Not sure if this is original or not. I assume it is, but who knows. That's what it looks like with the bayonet cover all in there. So you don't cut yourself or damage the knife or anything. So yeah, bayonet for the Kar98k. Don't see this as much in the video games just because most video games don't bother to include it. Because in most video games, if you're close enough to bayonet somebody, it's usually a bad part, or it's a bad thing on their part, and it just doesn't happen that often. And not many people actually choose the bayonet charge, even if they can. Games like Battlefield 1 have it and such, but most games don't choose to include bayonets, especially in World War II or later shooters that would include this. Because again, like in World War II, there's not many calls to fix bayonets, and actually many cases where bayonets actually kill a lot of people. So especially that aren't just like wounded soldiers or something that they're checking dead or something like that. Unfortunately, so yeah, bayonet though that is part of the gun. Now getting to something a little more exciting and something actually more important to the rifle, the ammunition it fires and how you kind of load it and how you can load it and such. But yeah, again, it was a German gun. This is the caliber right here. I'm going to try to cover up anything that's actually important, maybe to the rounds or to the particular order here. But yeah, 8 by 57. Ooh, jeez, 8 by 57 round here. That's the round it fires. It's like an 8mm Mauser round or something. 8 by 57. That's what this gun fires. I don't actually have a bullet here that I haven't fired, unfortunately, so I can't show you the full thing. But these are the casings here. As you can get a scale for it here, just pay the finger maybe. It is a fairly large round. Again, it's an 8 by 57 8mm Mauser round here. Obviously, this one's fired, so it doesn't actually have the bullet on it. Maybe bayonet for scale or something, but it's a fairly, large round. It packs more than enough punch. It's got a lot of stopping power behind it, which also makes it a little unpleasant to shoot with the metal butt plate. But regardless, this is the round, the casing anyway of what this gun fires. Um, how you can load this gun, again, flip the safety to the left bound position, open the bolt, and you can individually load these into the internal magazine like so, just pushing down into the, spacing right there, one by one if you want to. Obviously, I'm not going to load and fire this or anything indoors, plus it's not actually fireable. You can do that, or like a lot of other guns of the period and stuff, you can have these little bad boys, these little striker clips or whatever, striker stripper clips or whatever. Essentially, these are just little metal clips here that you essentially take, 5 bullets or whatever, whatever your one fits for your particular gun, and you. I just give myself tinnitus. You essentially slide the bullet casing for this into the round here. It holds it in here. Obviously, you do 5 more, turn it around, put it right here on the gun and just push the bullets into their placing there. Then you can take it out manually, or you can, push the bolt forward to take it off to get the striker clip out of there. But that's how you load the gun. That's what it shoots. That's the kind of operation right there. These are very nice to have if you have a lot of ammo you want to shoot, just because it makes loading it a lot fucking faster. Obviously, you have to load these still, but preparation, obviously. But yeah, so this is the rounded fires. Large caliber round, obviously. and that's how you load the gun. And then obviously fire with the trigger once you have your target in sight. Given the fact that the Nazis generally use this, hopefully that missed. But yeah, so that's kind of a history of the gun. That's kind of a showcasing of the actual physical gun here. Obviously, it varies model to model quite a bit. It varies, gun to gun quite a bit, and what alterations have been made to it. If it's a replica, if it's a real one from the actual period, such like that. But yeah, the Kar98k right there. And then for the second phase of this video here, I kind of wanted to zoom out. For the second phase of this video here, I kind of wanted to showcase this gun on some different, comparison to kind of some video game models of it and kind of just give you the video game history lesson of this gun essentially. Kind of what guns, what has been kind of depicted in, what it looks like in that, how it operates in that. So yeah, these are some actual just like 3D renderings here. As you can see, they're very, very similar. This is one that actually doesn't have the loop around the V, the raised V notch thing here. It's got a little different kind of front end there to hold the bayonet, but still, it's very similar to my rifle here. As you can see, kind of comparison there. The 3D rendering is pretty similar. As you can see, the little notch thing for the safety there. It's as you can see, its little fucking bolt is a little different. It's pressed down instead of just straight out like mine. Again, you see a lot of different variations, whether they're from different countries, maybe, whether they're replicas and stuff like that. But regardless, that's kind of a Kar98k here. We'll get to that in a second here. I pulled up just a fandom thing here from Call of Duty, which is arguably the most famous video game depiction of the Kar98k, as this series has obviously deeply explored the World War II time period. But as you can see, it's been in more than just World War II shooters. It's been in Cold War shooters. It's been in modern day shooters as marksman rifles and sniper rifles. So the game has showcased this gun in much more than just a World War II shooter than that it started as. But obviously, its most famous depiction is with the Nazis in World War II. Here, this is kind of a video game rendering of this. If I could actually make this a little bigger, maybe. I don't really know. I don't know. It's a pretty small video game rendering here. Maybe you can showcase some other stuff of it. Obviously, these are from old games, some of these renderings here, but as you see, they're pretty faithful and accurate to what the gun actually looks like. It's got the notch for the safety kind of on the left side there. It's got a little of a, it's got the barrel and everything itself looks good. The sight looks okay, that it's a slider there, but this little like oval part isn't really there. There's a little decompression in the gun here, but I don't know. And this also looks like a different version of the rifle. Again, I'm not entirely sure about the history and origin of my gun. The gun that I have here, this was actually a gift. This wasn't something that me or anyone from my family actually personally bought or anything. This was just given to us. But regardless, that's that. That's a kind of down the barrel, which again looks fairly accurate. Again, I don't believe that there's such a distinct kind of like oval, like half circle notch there at the end of it. That might just be to help with video games things, but that's not exactly my prediction of it. Again, you see with the telescopic sight, that's very common in a lot of these games just because, again, it makes it a lot easier to actually use it as a marksman rifle and use it in a balancing sense of the game. That is how you load the gun, so it looks like it is a 5-clip magazine. Um, as I showed you there with the striker clips there, that's kind of how you use that. That's just some pictures of the Kar98k. So as you can see, it's pretty realistic and pretty faithful most of the time. Again, if you can see up at the top there, if my cursor is even available, you can see the kind of like loop around the front sight there. A lot of games will have that version of it. A lot of them will have the non-loop like I've seen and you've seen with my gun. But yeah, that's kind of the Kar98k there. Again, very popular depiction in World War II shooters. Another thing we can showcase here. I did have a ChatGPT chat pulled up. You can see the prompt of how many video games the Kar98k been in here. You can see the pretty extensive, big shot list of games that's been here. obviously the Call of Duty series that have seen extensive use in a number of different Call of Duties here. Even up to stuff like the Vanguard, but I think it's in some of the more recent Modern Warfares as well as marksman and sniper rifles. Obviously, it's been in Battlefield games that depict World War II, like 1942 and 5, although 5 is not exactly the most well-liked game in the world. Wolfenstein, another World War II kind of altered history game, I guess you could say. Medal of Honor series, again, one of the more famous World War II shooter series. Sniper Elite series, again, a lot of times this is depicted as a marksman and sniper rifle. Some other ones that are lesser known is something like Hell Let Loose, some recent very tactical simulator kind of World War II shooters. Kar98k is obviously in games like that. So as you can see, it's got a long list of games it's been in here, and then actually showcases in some games how it operates, which I do have pulled up here. So credit to this channel. I'll link this guy in the description or something, and this video in the description. Although, of course, I'm not going to be watching all of it. Yeah. So you can see, Red Orchestra 2. So there's a lot of different games this has been showcased in. Hell Let Loose, like I said, this is a depiction of Hell Let Loose. Again, they're a lot more accurate, so it's a pretty accurate description here of how it's used. This is a very pretty accurate description. Again, it functions just as well as it's supposed to be. That's how you load it, that's how you decompress it, that's how the, bolt functions there. One thing I think mine is different than most Kar98Ks is because of this bolt. I'm not sure if this is second hand or this is a different model or a different country or something, but it doesn't curve down to the bottom. It's just straight out to the sides. So I think it is different than maybe what Germany used in World War II, but it is still a very similar rifle. I don't have this particular one, unfortunately. But yeah, the world of guns here. This is a very cool game. That's how the interworkings work of it. I just wanted to show a little bit of that, just to show some of the video games that this was showcased in, as well as kind of how it looks in video games, as what it compared to what a actual rifle in real life looks like. But yeah, very cool rifle. Obviously, mine might be a little different than the typical version, just because I'm noticing the um, bolt doesn't go all the way, kind of curved down to the bottom. It is, I believe, either a reproduction or like a kind of different variant than the typical one you see. But yeah, this is Kar98k here, both sides of it there. This has been the Kar98k, kind of just a video game and history background on the weapon and what's made it so impactful. It was a tremendous rifle in World War II for the Germans as well as many other countries and many other servicemen throughout history. Obviously, you can see it's got a long, storied history in video games. It's a tremendous rifle. It still has a lot of stopping power, and it's one of the most iconic pieces of kind of military history and military servicemen rifles in video games that you can actually find. So I kind of just wanted to showcase it for that reason and kind of give you a kind of breakdown of that. And hopefully you guys like this series. Let me know if you enjoyed this video and if you like this type of video and what improvements or what else you might want to change and like to see instead of what I did with this first little go around here with the Guns of Video Games series here. Let me know. Let me just comment whatever if you think it was cool or anything or any questions you got. If you like the video and like the channel and everything, I encourage you to like and subscribe. It definitely helps out the channel and the video. But as always, I appreciate the view. Hope you enjoyed yourself, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.